Welcome back to our channel. Today, we are going to move forward in time, up to the year 300 after Christ. This period represents one of the most contrasting phases in the history of the Roman Empire, beginning at the height of its territorial expansion, military power, and economic prosperity, and ending in a deep crisis that nearly caused its complete dissolution. This was the greatest power in Europe during this period, the only one that truly experienced significant changes, and that is why we will continue to explore its history in detail. At the beginning of the 2nd century, under the Emperor Trajan, the empire reached its maximum territorial extent. Originating from Hispania and the first emperor born in the provinces, Trajan led brilliant military campaigns that resulted in the definitive conquest of Dacia after wars between 101 and 106, rich in gold and silver, and the temporary occupation of territories in Mesopotamia. At that moment, the Roman Empire extended from the Atlantic Ocean to the Caspian Sea, covering approximately 5 million square kilometers, and a population estimated between 70 and 100 million inhabitants. Trajan was an efficient administrator, responsible for major public works, such as Trajan's Forum, Trajan's Column, which recounts his victories, and extensive aqueducts and roads that facilitated trade and administrative control. His successor, Hadrian, between 117 and 138, shifted the expansionist orientation toward a defensive and consolidating policy. He abandoned the most distant conquests in Mesopotamia, considering them difficult to maintain, and focused on strengthening the frontiers. In Britannia, he ordered the construction of the famous Hadrian's Wall, a fortification of approximately 117 kilometers, that marked the northern limit of the empire. A great admirer of Greek culture, Hadrian traveled extensively throughout all the provinces, promoting Hellenization and sponsoring grand constructions. In Rome, he rebuilt the Pantheon, equipping it with the revolutionary dome that remains to this day one of the greatest achievements of Roman engineering. The following emperors, Antoninus Pius, between 138 and 161, and Marcus Aurelius, between 161 and 180, prolonged this era of relative peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. Antoninus Pius ruled calmly, maintaining economic stability and avoiding major conflicts. Marcus Aurelius, in turn, became known as the philosopher emperor, author of Meditations, a fundamental work of Stoicism. Despite his desire for peace, he faced constant defensive wars against Germanic peoples, especially the Marcomae and the Quadi, along the Danube, as well as against the Parthians in the east. His reign was also marked by the devastating Antonine Plague, probably an epidemic of smallpox brought from the east, which caused millions of deaths and seriously weakened the population, the economy, and the military forces of the empire. These rulers, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, are known as the 5 good emperors. What distinguished them was the system of succession by adoption, choosing the most capable among senators and administrators, rather than relying exclusively on family inheritance, thus ensuring a sequence of competent leaders dedicated to the public good. The decline began with Commodus, who ruled between 180 and 192. He was the biological son of Marcus Aurelius, and the first emperor born, in the purple, during his father's reign. His government was marked by extravagance, corruption, megalomaniacal identification with Hercules, and favoritism toward courtiers. Commodus was assassinated in 192, triggering a period of civil wars known as the Year of the 5 Emperors. In 193, stability returned temporarily with Septimius Severus, between 193 and 211, originating from Africa, Leptis Magna, who founded the Severan dynasty. Severus further professionalized the army, significantly increasing soldiers' pay and allowing legionaries to marry, measures that strengthened military loyalty but also increased the emperor's dependence on the troops. His son Cracalla, between 211 and 217, became famous for the Constitutio Antoniniana of 212, which granted Roman citizenship to virtually all free inhabitants of the empire. This measure had a primarily fiscal motivation, to expand the base of taxpayers. Cracalla was assassinated by officers, and the Severan dynasty continued with unstable rulers, until the assassination of Severus Alexander in 235. From that point on, the empire plunged into the so-called crisis of the 3rd century, approximately 50 years of military anarchy and institutional collapse. Between 235 and 284, there were dozens of emperors, many of them generals proclaimed by their own legions, and overthrown a few months or years later. Civil wars became constant, draining resources and weakening defenses. Barbarian invasions intensified. Alemanni and Franks crossed the Rhine. Goths devastated the Balkans and sacked Athens, while the Sasanian Empire, more aggressive than the old Parthian Empire, threatened the east, even capturing Emperor Valerian in 260, an unprecedented humiliation. The economy collapsed. Successive emperors debased the currency to pay soldiers, causing hyperinflation and a return to barter in many regions. Recurrent epidemics, such as the plague of Cyprian, between 250 and 270, drastically reduced the population. The empire temporarily fragmented into 3 parts: the central core, the independent Gallic Empire in the west, and the Palmyrene Kingdom in the east, ruled first by Odenathus and later by Queen Zenobia, who managed to conquer Egypt and openly challenge Rome. Only energetic emperors such as Claudius II Gothicus, Aurelian, and Probus managed to recover territories and restore some degree of unity. Aurelian, in particular, reconquered Palmyra and the Gallic Empire, receiving the title Restitutor Orbis, meaning restorer of the world. Despite these efforts, structural weaknesses were laid bare: excessive dependence on the army, overly extensive frontiers, a weakened economy, and a fragile central administration. Thus, between 100 and 300 after Christ, the Roman Empire experienced the transition from its period of greatest glory and stability to an era of precarious survival, marked by multiple and interconnected crises. This century and a half revealed both the extraordinary capacity for organization and resilience of Rome and the vulnerabilities that would require radical reforms, at the end of the 3rd century, for the empire to continue existing in the late empire. Everything we have seen in this episode will directly impact all the changes we will observe on the European continent from this point forward. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Do not forget to leave a like, share, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive notifications when the next episodes are released. Until next time.